in our meeting tonight, we have an old friend, Jerry Burgess. Would you lead us in prayer?
Father, we thank you again, Lord, for this opportunity to give us tonight, Lord. Father, I ask, Lord, that you bless the minds that are sitting here tonight, Father, and make the best decision, Lord, for this county, Father. Father, we ask you, Lord, to be the one that could make it, Father, be with the city, Father. Father, we ask you to go with us to lead, guard, guide, and direct us, and we give you all the honor, all the praise, and all the glory. For it's in your sweet and blessed and very most holy name in Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everyone stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Simpkins,
Here.
Mr. Ledger,
Here.
Mr. McElwain, Mr. Beatty, Mr. Dawson,
Here.
Ms. Spicer, Mr. Buckner,
Here.
Mr. Britt,
Here.
Mr. Petty,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Grove,
Here.
Ms. Gray.
We did have a quorum. Mr. McElwain called. He told us he's enjoying his vacation and wanted y'all to know that. Thank you. First item of business is the approval of minutes of the September 6, 2022 work session. Motion by Commissioner Petty. To have a second. Second by Commissioner Dawson. Any questions, discussion, changes? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item of business, committee reports. I have down committee appointments. I was unable to contact one of you. I'll leave you unnamed, but I'll contact you tomorrow. So I'm going to push that down. I need to talk to y'all before I finalize a committee assignments. Also under committee reports, do we have any committees to report? Hearing none, we'll go to the next appointments. We have no appointments. Item 4, new business, quarterly reports, all funds except schools. Mr. Don Hall.
Yeah, I won't take up much of your time. These fourth quarter reports are ending June 30th of 22. So that's the end of the fiscal year that we just got through. We are under audit right now from the comptroller of the Treasury. They're down here and they're going after us like crazy, like tigers. They're just every minute seems like they're asking for something. But the financials are being audited right now. Everything I went through these, you received everything except the general fund Friday. I sent that general fund out today about 12:30, I think it was. Go over them. If you've got any questions, especially the new ones, my phone number is 615, if you want to take it down, 375-1548. And if you see something that is curious to you, give me a call. I'll explain it best I can. And you've got my email since I sent that to you. But yeah, ask me, but everything on the expenditure side of all the funds came in under budget, thank goodness, because that's a no-no to the comptroller. Revenues look good, pretty strong in most all funds. And, you know, as long as you get close on most of them, you're in good shape. But we came in real strong in most of them. But yeah, give me a call. Everything looked good in all the funds. But give me a call, especially the new ones. You're going to look at some of this and you're going to say, what the devil is going on here? And so give me a call, or the mayor, he's gotten pretty good over the years.
I prefer you give him a call.
looking at these numbers and say, it takes a while though. It does take a while to understand these things, but give me a call if you want.
Thank you. Well, we'll need a motion to move these on to the regular session, what we're looking for. Motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Buckner. Any questions or discussion? Any question, Mr. Hall? Hearing none, all in favor of moving this forward, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item is financial reports, all school funds, Board of Education representative. And as he makes his way up front, some superintendents put the super in superintendent. Dr. Danny Weeks was named the #1 superintendent in the state of Tennessee for last year. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, commissioners, for that recognition. I appreciate that very much. It's been a privilege to work in Dickson County Schools. I enjoyed that. This is start of our 11th year, and it's been an honor to work here, and I continue to enjoy that. And I hope that is just one more thing that you're proud of for our school system. And I don't say that pride for me. I say pride for our school system, because I certainly didn't do it by myself. It's a joint effort of all of our staff, all of our teachers, and all of our students, and our Board of Education. So I appreciate that. So thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, I could echo what Mr. Hall said. I bring you our three funds, our general fund, our school nutrition fund, and our federal funds to you tonight. These are the final reports too. We are very proud to say that we came in, our revenues came in 111% of budget. So we're very proud. Tax revenue coming in, property tax and sales tax revenue came in very strong for us. And we held our expenses to 95% of what we budgeted. So great job to our department heads for keeping under budget and being very conscientious about where we spend those dollars. So that's our general fund summary. Again, you receive that through email. And if you have questions about that, I'd be glad to answer any of those. Our federal funds are just flow through dollars. So it comes through the federal government to us and it's expended out. So those are in balance. And our school nutrition fund did very well last year as well, because those are dollars they're reimbursed by the federal government. And last year, the federal government provided free meals for every student in the county, breakfast and lunch, and a snack in the afternoons if they had needed that. So that allowed our school nutrition program to keep a little bit of money in fund balance and to take care of some expenditures, redoing some kitchens and cafeterias. So they had a very good year as well.
Any questions for Dr. Weeks?
I was noticing in your COVID and your ARP, looks like almost 20 million. You're going to receive almost 20 million.
Yes, sir.
What all are y'all planning on? Are y'all working on that now on what you're going to spend it on, or have you already allocated?
ESSER 1 has already been spent. So
Okay.
that was last year. That was expenditure for that. ESSERs 2 and 3 are being expended now. So I'll be glad to get you a copy of those budgets for those and show you the types of expenses are in those. I'll be glad to send that to all commissioners if you like those dollars. I will say, Mr. Williams, thank you for that question. I might add, we are being extremely careful in expending those dollars, because when I came here 10 years ago, the race to the top dollars that President Obama at that time had sent to all the school districts, the budget that I came here with had used a lot of those dollars and put them into recurring expenses. And so the first budget that I was asked to share with this commission when my budget was a budget that the school system had prepared at that time, there were a lot of cuts that had to be made, because there were again just recurring expenses that had been used by those federal dollars. And I will say that we have been extremely careful. I'm going to say none of those are going to be recurring, but we've been extremely careful, knowing that they are one-time dollars and they're used for these COVID expenses. And so we've had some repairs, we've had some maintenance out of those, we've had some upgrades to facilities and things like that, but we've been very careful not to put those in recurring expenses. So just want to add that in, so you don't see that and don't expect that when 2 years down the road when budgets come back up.
Any other questions, Dr. Weeks? This is typically a motion to move this on to regular session. Open floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Ledger, second by Commissioner Beatty. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is also Dr. Weeks' budget amendments, all school funds. Dr. Weeks.
Mayor, if it pleases you and the commission, I'd like to combine this with a description of what the budget amendment would be for, is related to our the board's long-term building plan.
Please
So
do.
let me kind of put
Yes.
these together for you.
Let me pass those out for you. I've got one.
Sorry. Commissioners, as some of you know, the mayor has shared with the Board of Education that there would be some money available for building projects in the next year or two. And the Board of Education has been working on a 5-year building plan. And that process has been going on since we last completed the Burns Middle School project 3 or 4 years ago. And so the board has looked at where they have been in terms of building plans and what their recommendations are in terms of building plans. The number we had heard, I think, is varied between 25 and $30 million and
32.5.
32.5 today. Okay. And that is where the board has been working. They have had a couple of facility studies. They've put in some work in terms of facility studies and looking at that plan. And the first phase of that plan that they've asked that I bring to you is shown on is summarized on the front page, the type page there. And their first phase that they've asked me to present to you tonight is the demolition of the old Charlotte High School, which is the houses of our New Directions Academy, which is our alternative program school, and to create new middle school space there. And the summary of that is that we would demolish the existing building, followed by construction of a renewed replacement wing to accommodate up to 350 students, including a connector over to Charlotte Middle School building. The upgrades would be made to the core areas and the main entrance of Charlotte Middle, and a connector would be made to the newest additions at New Directions Academy. So what all that says on paper, there's a picture of that on the back. And so in looking at the board's priorities, they had believed that Charlotte Middle School is the most overcrowded school that we have at this point in time. And so it was their desire to add additional space to the Charlotte Middle School campus. And so what they have proposed that I bring to you this evening is, you see the red hatch marks would be to take away the existing facility that houses New Direction Academy that was once home to part of the court wing and things of that nature. So everything that's striped in red would be demolished. And then there would be 2 construction projects there. The first one that you see in the upper left-hand corner would be an angled wing that would come out. It would be constructed to hold approximately 350 students. That would add the capacity for another 350 students to the Charlotte Middle School campus. It would also upgrade the core facilities, and core facilities are those spaces that are shared by all students, such as restroom facilities, cafeteria, dining areas, and places like that. So the board thought if they added 350 more students there, the cafeteria is surely inadequate to handle those additional students. Also, if you've been in that building lately, there's a lot of congestion around the office space. The office is very small. So where the existing cafeteria is and where that angle is, they would have a new entrance that would be right there. There would be some form of new traffic pattern through there that would allow for better traffic flow. And again, if you've been in the Charlotte area in the mornings or in afternoons, you know that traffic flow is a mess there. The existing space that you see in the bottom of that picture that's colored blue, there are 2 wings that were constructed sometime in the 90s to the New Directions building that are using it for alternative space. There is a large space in between those, and the board would like to propose building a connector between those 2 buildings, and then that lower portion would remain intact, and that would house the alternative school. That is their first priority at this point in time. You see the second priority is to purchase additional land for future building needs, and that probably looks like elementary school space in the Dickson County cluster. Probably south of I-40 is their projected discussion right now. So in preparing for the dollars that would be available, in order to move forward with this project, we wanted to kind of go ahead and get a start on getting diagrams and design documents to prepare for this document, to prepare for the dollars that the commission would allocate to the school system. And so in order to do that, they've estimated that it would take about $140,000 to get the design drawings ready for that. And so, Mayor, I guess it's appropriate I actually bring both of these to the commission this evening. First of all, the first phase of the board's proposed building plan, And then I'll try to answer any questions about that. And then if we move forward with that, then we'll talk about the budget. Well, the budget amendment's very clear from there. It's to take $140,000 from our fund balance to transfer over into architects and design. So
Thank you, Dr. Weeks. Any
Try to answer
questions for
questions.
Dr. Weeks?
Dr. Weeks, I can't remember the name of the study, but I think I read the study also. Is this the recommendation of the study to build a new Charlotte Middle School?
are you referring to the Lewis Group study?
Yes, sir.
No, sir, it was not. And let me go back and thank you for that question too. The Board of Education, I guess about a year and a half ago it's probably been longer than that. It's probably been 2 years ago now, asked a group to come in and study facility needs for the county. And that group performed their work over last summer and presented their findings to the Board of Education late October and late November. And they came with six recommendations at that point in time, Mr. Grove. So I will say one of these, the need for additional space, particularly elementary school space in the Dickson cluster was. And so that's why you see in the documentation there, one of the recommendations would be to search for additional space. To add to Charlotte Middle School specifically was not a recommendation from that study. The recommendation broadly asked and suggested that we search for new middle school space in the northern cluster, I guess you would say. And I think from the study, it suggested more back toward a combination of a Creekwood Middle School. Now, again, from a history perspective, the board brought that recommendation, I guess it was in 2017 or 18, to purchase some land for a Creekwood Middle School. And that recommendation was turned down by the commission. So I would assume a combination of those two pieces led the board to this recommendation. Just that there wasn't an appetite for a Creekwood Middle School at that time.
Any other questions, Dr. Weeks?
And I'm not sure I answered that well for Mr. Grove.
Enrollment. I mean, did we have to have this extra space and everything as far as the new kids coming in? I mean, have you got the enrollment up now? I mean,
At the current time, Charlotte Middle School is our most crowded middle school space. Yes, sir. It is, I think it's 87% capacity at Charlotte Middle School. And
that's 13% more kids it would handle. And we're still talking about doing all this. And I was going to ask you a question too. How old is that Charlotte School?
I don't have those numbers.
Pertaining to White Bluff Elementary. See, and there's to me, it looked like there's a lot of schools around. It needs to be caught up on safety procedures and sprinkler systems and all that before you start by going out, buying land, building new schools. I thought we was pretty good shape. And we're talking about $32 million in 4 or 5 years. Hell, we don't know where it's going to be in 5 years. We may be back, really cutting everybody. I mean,
yes, sir.
That's a long time out.
It is. And I think the legislature expects that the Board of Education have a 5-year facility plan on file with the commission. And again, they have not done that since we last built the Burns Middle School. So we have been talking about projects.
I tell you what, it help out a lot too. And I don't know about the rest of the commission, but I mean, when something comes up like this in the study, you start studying, I'd like to get a copy of all that, because give us a better look and we could go out and talk to, to somebody in our districts and everything. I mean, we go into it blind and you put the big popsicle on the table and here it is. We're going to have to get it before it freezes, whatever,
Not to interrupt you, Mr. Commissioner Dawson, but I saw the study and I wasn't on the commission at that time. And I like independent studies because it takes the politics and emotional value out of it. And I think we got a duty and a responsibility as a commission to listen to independent studies so we don't run into a long-term problem of spending money in one place when it's not adequate for a long-term expansion. So that was my question, Dr. Weeks. What is your opinion?
I'm going to go back to tonight as I presented. My opinion needs to be the board's opinion tonight. I had again recommended that we look, and I still think the best use of our dollars, if we're talking about middle school space, I still believe that's Creekwood Middle School. At the time, again, we went over all of those benefits of having a Creekwood Middle School on the campus. We had looked at some land that was adjacent to Creekwood to Creekwood High School, and it would allow a lot of sharing of space. It would allow the sharing of ball fields. It would allow sharing of, common bus routes, everything's coming there together. Many of our athletic programs and other programs share already, because White Bluff and Charlotte in and of themselves maybe can't. I think of wrestling, I think of golf, I think of some teams like that they don't have a full component of teams. So they come together already and do that. So at the time, I thought that was the best idea. And again, when we brought that to the commission, there just wasn't an appetite for that. And so when I carried that information back to the board, I think they took that for what it was worth. They respected the wishes of the commission. And so I think they started going in a different direction. And so that different direction carried them to look at the Charlotte space.
So not to interrupt you, but once we fix the Charlotte Middle School, how long is it going to take before we have to fix the White Bluff Middle School?
I understand. And I'm very concerned about that as well. It wouldn't be long, because it's approaching capacity as well. And I think the idea of adding 350 seats at Charlotte, the northern cluster is growing. We know that in both schools. And again, that's why I proposed a Creekwood Middle School. But I think the idea now is that Charlotte may be growing more. And the idea was that, there might be space at Burns Middle. And of course, this would create new space. If White Bluff outgrew either one of those, they could zone to one of those clusters.
Well, I appreciate the questions. I'm not cutting them off. We need more of them, but what Commissioner Dawson pointed out, and again, I think there were two studies done. There was an initial study, and then this last study that you referred to as far as planning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We chose, and it's what Mr. Grove said, we chose a group out of Knoxville. It's called the Lewis Group. And I met them at a superintendent's conference, and I was very upfront with them. I said, a lot of times when we have somebody do a facility study, they want to come in, tell you what you need to build, then they want to be your architects and designers to build it. And so I told the Lewis Group when we approached them, we have our own architects and designers, so we're really not interested in you coming to Middle Tennessee, and I don't even think they have offices around here, but we'd like you to be that independent set of eyes that look at the county for what it is and to look at our school space. And so that Lewis Group study was completed. Again, it was presented to the board last October, and I'll be glad to get copies to you as well if you'd like.
Well, to follow up on that, and again, I know you're here on behalf of the board. Why did the board reject that Lewis plan, the first plan, the Lewis plan, to come up with this plan? And I'll ask the board if you don't know that.
I don't know that I have an answer for that.
Okay. Well, it's, and again, we're going to have more questions. I just, with the board, I find it concerning when this is basically, we had the initial study, we had the Lewis study, and now we're about to have a third study. So I would love to hear from the board, to be polled to see what their thinking is, because that would sure help my thinking. And I'm guessing it with the rest of y'all. Please, any other questions for Dr. Weeks? Mr. Britt, listen.
March or April of 21. And again, I'll be glad to share that study with you. They went to every building, looked at capacity of the buildings. They graded the buildings on a 5-star concept of the building envelope. So how are the how's the roof, how are the doors, how are the windows, the facility itself. Then I think they looked at the mechanical systems, HVACs, plumbing, giving an overall grade, I think, for, aesthetics, accessibility. So each school was graded on a 4 or 5 criteria on a 5-star basis. They also looked at capacity and surrounding infrastructure.
Sorry, Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, so I- I've been pretty vocal that I wanted to see these schools, Charlotte, White Bluff, Burns, Dickson, to keep these, schools there. So I've always been opposed to the Creekwood Middle School because in 20 years, where are you going to go then when that one gets full, So I guess I'm kind of liking this plan a little bit more, but I guess one of the concerns that I have is when you go back and research. So even if you go back to 2000, over 20 years ago, we've had 8,000 students. And I think this year we're right around 8,000.
Yes, sir.
And in 2018, we added 65 classrooms. I think that was right with the building program. And so I'm just trying to, and I've talked to several board members about this and it's been all over the board, we're just going to buy that's been proposed to buy the Renaissance Center. We've talked about, changing this school, that school. We talked about, I've seen something about that, the old Dickson Elementary School where they were going to add on to it. And it makes me nervous because it doesn't seem like there's a really good plan and everybody's headed in one direction.
Understand.
And I guess that's kind of where I stand. I need to see some numbers to say that if there's not a need to add on, then I would rather see the money spent on Charlotte Middle, Dickson Middle, Dickson Elementary. I mean, my parents went to Dickson Elementary and Dickson Middle. So, and I did too. So they're 50 years old, we've got schools that need to be, updated and repaired. And I'm sitting here thinking we've spent 20 years here and we haven't grown. Now, if I understand, I don't know about the population in the schools, that the classroom ratio has went down, and I don't know that, but I'm sitting here looking at numbers saying, okay, we got 8,000 students and we've added 65 classrooms and now we need to add 350. And I don't see it. I need to see those numbers.
And I think part of that is a response to conversations that the mayor's office and I have had about I think this administration has been very well planned and skilled about when certain dollars are available to certain organizations. And again, this knowing that school system was in line for those dollars next. That was the plan. I think the intention is, we've heard everything from do we need new classroom seats? And, because obviously the rest of the circle around Metro Nashville is growing and growing tremendously. And I think it's only a matter of time before that comes here. I think, Mayor, I don't have that number for me again, but I think the next time the dollars were allocated to the school system would have been in, was it 31 or 32?
Oh,
Maybe
it's a very early.
early 30s.
No.
And so again, if this is the only chance that the board has to add classroom seats in the next foreseeable next 8 to 10 years, I think it's an ideal time to add new seats. And I agree, there's some places that need some construction and need some upgrades, but in terms of adding spaces, we have not necessarily added numbers to our enrollment, but the way students are structured and the way we have to serve students has changed drastically. But when those classrooms were built, they were probably built for 35 students in a classroom, and now class sizes have changed and we have to be more judicious at how we group students together. And there are lots more places and lots more needs for students to be in smaller classrooms, especially our special needs and our ELL populations that, you may have class limits of 10 in there and an adequate space for them. It's not necessarily full classroom. And so when you look at just numbers to numbers, I understand as an outsider that may not, just be palatable on the outside, but certainly there are additional spaces, for counseling and everything else that are used now that would not have appeared. So space is needed. I will say that. And again, you know, the recommendations coming from the Lewis Group was to have a space in the northern cluster for those two schools to grow. Again, because with Charlotte Middle being at, and again, I think it's 87-88% capacity. William James is probably the same. It's similar, probably at 80% at least, if not more.
Any other question, Dr. Weeks?
I was talking about the upgrades of the schools. Has Charlotte got the sprinkler system in there? That's good.
I honestly can't say, Mr. Dawson.
That's pretty important, I think. And Mr. Grove was talking about a while ago about our duty or whatever. I agree with him.
Mhm.
It's our duty, you know, to make sure the kids is educated. But
Absolutely.
we also got a duty to our taxpayers too.
Understand that completely.
And also, you know, was that study made available to everybody? I mean, I didn't see no study
Yes, sir. We had it online for quite some time.
online.
Yes, sir, but I'll be glad to provide
Yeah.
copies of.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean,
Be glad to.
I'd like to look at it. And also, you know, the operational costs, there's all kind of things go with that, you know, and the 140,000 you're planning on spending, are you planning on spending that pretty soon, or was that down the road?
I think there was some question from some board members of how much of that $30 million would the proposed changes to Charlotte Middle School take. And in order for us to get to that, we need the architect design drawings of that. And so they have estimated that to be about $140,000. So for us to know what it's going to cost, we have the demolition, we have an approximation on the demolition on that area, but we can't go further with estimating costs for construction until we get those drawings.
Dr. Wicks, I appreciate your time but I can't constantly vote to approve anything that you, superintendent of the year, don't approve, the Lewis Group don't approve. And I understand that people here live in White Bluff and they live in Charlotte, and I understand the need that they want to keep their schools in there. But I also understand that we need to be smart long-term. And to me, your long-term plan says that we need to do something different. So are we temporarily fixing a problem or what? I mean, we built a high school 20 years ago that we're still trying to fill up today for politics. So it won't be nothing against you. I respect your opinion, and your opinion comes in here and tells me that you've got a study, and your opinion tells you one thing, and politics is telling another. So anytime that me coming to spending money that I don't feel like's right is probably a no vote for me.
Understand. And if I just might clarify that, and I want to make sure that I'm not conflicting what my board has asked me to do either. The Lewis Group study did say that we needed space in the northern parts of the county for additional students. And so I guess from that perspective, as I think about it, the proposal that they are bringing does meet that requirement. Whether it covers the entire northern space, and I don't know that their intention was to do that for construction. And again, if you need to hear from a member of the Lewis Group that actually did the study, I believe we could arrange for that to happen if you need that to happen. Hope that clarifies that. I'm not saying I completely disagree with adding on to Charlotte. I'm not sure that was the full nature and intent of the study.
Well, these
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
have been good questions. Commissioner Beatty, you have a question?
Well, I just got a couple. And like I said, I'm kind of against the Creekwood Middle. And when we was building the Burns, all we heard out of the Burns community was we needed our own community schools. And then when it got ready for Creekwood Middle, the community schools wasn't that important. So that's the reason I say my only problem with the Creekwood Middle is with sharing all the facilities. We're already, I mean, the middle schools, they have to share gyms, fields. I mean, we're already sharing enough. I mean, I might go along with the Creekwood Middle if we had our own stuff and not jammed in right on top of Creekwood High School. We already, you know, every school around Charlotte, like I said, go in there in the afternoons or the mornings. And so that's my only thing. I don't think the communities, I don't know whether it's politics, but it was so important for Burns to have their community school. And then when it got time for Charlotte and White Bluff, and it don't mean so much, but it does to us.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes or anything. That's just the way it is. But now this add-on, is this adding on for 350, or is this going to make Charlotte Middle get to 350?
No, so they're already at 430 right now. So this would add 350. So that it would actually increase the capacity of Charlotte Middle to be similar to Dickson Middle, similar to Burns Middle.
Well, and I guess my question is, we're at 87%. I know that's pushing it, like I said, but we still, can we not add on for 100 instead of 350? That give you maybe 100 to add on at White Bluff. I'm just trying to think how, do we, if we're not full, why do we need to go to the 350? Can we not go to the 125 and then have 125 to add on at White Bluff with the ability to, build this first floor where you could build a second floor on top of it and add the 350 later on as we needed it. I mean, I guess that's where my thought comes
Yes.
into, I don't mind spending this 140 if they'll say, hey, let's, we can do 125 here, we can do 125 here, we can do 125 here on all three of these schools. And with the addition, we're going to build them to where we can add on to a top floor. And, can we think like that, or are we thinking like that? Or I just don't see why we need to go
Sure.
straight to the 350.
You ask a lot of questions. I'll try to address them all.
Sorry.
Let me start with the easiest one. Is currently William James is at capacity and it's landlocked. So we've talked to one landowner that owns some land that's adjacent to William James, and it was about a 30-second conversation. It was a very quick no, and so there is no more land available at William James. So the only thing that would be potential to do at William James would be what they did down at Columbia, is completely tear that building down, start over, build on its footprint right now. In an ideal world, that might be okay, but I don't see that happening, and I don't know what you do with those students the year or two that you're tearing down that school and constructing on that site again. So that's one problem. The other issue, I think, is just a matter of economy. I think, when you have everything mobilized and you're coming in to add 10 classrooms, it's probably just as easy to add 20 classrooms as it is 10 now. It's probably cheaper now. My experiences in building before I came to Dickson County, we always try to overbuild because, several years ago, I think of some schools that we built we built an entire wing and sealed that wing off to say we're not going to use it at all and be in it when we need it. And so I think it's just an economy of scale of building it while it's cheaper, while you have all the construction business on site and taking care of that. So I understand, if we were to add probably 100 students to Charlotte Middle School, we still need cafeteria space, we still need new office space and things like that. So if you're going to do that, I guess it's none of us can.
Is that in here, is new cafeteria and office space in this?
Yes,
In this?
cafeteria, kitchen, and office space is my understanding. But again, that's part of what the budget amendment was was to draw that and to see what that would exactly look like.
Which I know say here in meeting and everything, but White Bluff negotiated with somebody up there about some property. And they said they told you no.
We
For the school.
we talked to someone. There was no negotiations at all, Mr. Dawson. It was a very quick no.
No, okay. If we could get that changed, that would make a difference, right? I think it's that you get land up there in White Bluff. I seriously do. But here's the thing, what I think, if we had our schools that were safe, what we had and fix them to the capacity and get them safe, get our sprinklers and everything put in them, the kids would be safe. And then down the road, 2-3 years, whatever we do, whatever we took, but not addressing the problem of what we have See, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I'll be glad to share that with the board.
Okay. All right.
I think
Yeah,
we're at a-
I'd like to know who you talk to and I mean, you know, and what you need up there.
Yes.
I think we're at a point, at this point, the request is to, after this explanation, is to have a budget amendment done to allow this. So I'll entertain anything from the commission, but you have an opportunity to make a motion to approve this. You have an opportunity to make a motion to deny this. You also have the opportunity for us to move this down to another date until we have time to look at those plans that Dr. Weeks is going to get to us. So there's you three options right there. Commissioner Williams.
I would like a little bit more time. This is kind of thrown on me. I didn't know this was coming up. So
Okay, the motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Ledger. The motion is to move this is 30 days to the November work session adequate. Would that work with your time and Dr. Weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a proper motion, a proper second. On that motion, any question or discussion? Here, yes.
What are we getting? School numbers?
He's going to give us the study.
enrollments?
He's going to bring us the studies that Commissioner Dawson requested so we can look at those.
Could we
And I-
Was
also
that,
get
was that
enroll-
proper motion? Is that proper? Is that? Okay. And then we'll have this on the agenda on the first Monday in November to review it again. Any other questions on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Weeks.
Mayor, is there any desire to hear from anyone from the Lewis group that developed that plan, or is that beyond ours?
If you would, I think if you would do this, and if it's the will of the commission's the same, if you could get us those studies, let them review them, and then we come back in 2 weeks. If we feel like we need that, we can invite them also at that November meeting. If it's not self-explanatory, we'd probably like to do that.
I get half of them, some of them I don't get. So then part of them goes to the store and then I might get part of them. But I'd like to have it in a folder if you won't mind.
Be glad to.
And it'd be nice also to know about where the enrollments are, like Stacy was talking about it for each school.
Mhm.
And then we'll see where we're at as far as behind on what we need to do for each school.
Yes.
That'd be the logical thing to do, wouldn't it?
Sounds wonderful to me.
Okay,
Be glad to.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weeks.
Thank you, sir.
Next item of business, inmate meal service bid. Sheriff Eads.
For the last 10 years, roughly, Summit Food Company is our service provider for food services in the jail. They provide 3 meals a day for the inmates. So anyway, we had some issues with them that we couldn't get resolved. So we made the decision not to renew the contract. And so what we did is, with the help of Don, we put out requests for proposals to contract with Dickson County to provide food services. So we sent out 5 RFPs. We received 5 back. And we looked up over all of them, and our recommendation is Trinity Services Group. They were the low bid. This is for a 2,500 calorie cold, hot meal. And the total for the estimated annual is $435,000 or $435,372. That works out to roughly $3.41 per inmate per day. That's for all 3 meals, not per meal for the day. And they were the low bidder. We researched and talked to several counties around us have Trinity services. Davidson County, Montgomery County took Trinity on in 2018. Cheatham County took them on in 2022. So.
Heard the sheriff's recommendation. Any questions for the sheriff? If not, I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Brett, second by Commissioner Gray. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And with the sheriff's call, we probably need to check on medical services
Yeah.
too.
Probably had a little too much pollen. I was doing pretty good there. Y'all run me 45 minutes. So. I'm gonna go get a drink of water with that, Mayor.
There you go. Good. Next item of business is contract between Emergency Medical Service and Medicaid. How do you say that, Mr. Bear? Thank you. MedicSafe.
Thank you, sir. We currently use the MedicSafe to control our narcotics in our units. And all this is an upgrade for us to go through it. It's a 3-year contract. So I'm bringing it to you for 3 years. It's going to save us about $10,000 if we do a 3-year versus a 1-year. So I'm just asking for y'all's permission to go with the 3-year contract. Like I said, we already currently use them. It's just an upgrade.
Any questions for Mr. Bear? I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Beatty, second by Commissioner Petty. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bear. Next item is grant match with America Rescue Plan funds. Sylvia, Tennessee City, Pond, and Van Lear. As you all are aware, the Dickson County received ARP funds. Also, counties, municipalities across the state received additional ARP funds that came through the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation. Dickson County received $4.3 million on that. We wanted to work something out so we can make those dollars go as far as possible through the 3 entities that provide water: Van Lear, Sylvia, Tennessee City, and Pond. And I think I said Water Authority. If I didn't, I'll say it again. The idea was to help each of these entities in a way so they could provide better service. When I looked around at this, with all the different things we've had with America Rescue Plan money and the different groups of money, this was more technical because of the water situation. So we're very fortunate to reach out to our longtime friend and longtime chairman of the Water Authority, Kyle Ruff. He volunteered to work on this and work with each of the entities to help bring this to a conclusion that will be beneficial to all concerned. And so at this point, I'd like Mr. Ruff to step forward and give us a little bit of presentation on this.
Just to clarify, former chairman of the Water Authority, Dickson.
Former chairman.
I resigned those duties in December of 2020. Mayor Ryle reached out to me to take a look at this ARP funding and kind of put the pieces together from what should the allocations be for the qualifying entities. It took some going through on everybody's behalf, and that from federal, state down to the counties to kind of figure out who was getting what. So I'm going to try to keep this brief and at a high level. Essentially, what it boils down to is, Mayor mentioned about 4.37 million that's being allocated. That's being allocated out to 2 eligible entities. That's Water Authority of Dickson County and Sylvia, Tennessee City Pond Utility District. Van Lear gets its own funding, as do the other municipalities. So there's only 2 utilities in the county that provide water on a standalone basis as utilities. And in looking at that, again, these are conversations that Mayor Ryle and I had. So very briefly, I'm gonna talk to new members of the commission. Congratulations, by the way, and to give you just a brief history. So the Water Authority operates 3 water treatment plants and 3 wastewater treatment plants. It's one of the most unique utilities in the state that we have redundant water producing capabilities, which means if one plant goes down, we have 2 others to support it. So it's a really unique situation. We'll just refer to STCP as Sylvia. Sylvia distributes water. They buy their water from the Water Authority. Van Lear produces its own water. So putting all those pieces together, we looked at what issues there have been in the past, what was the highest level of positive impact with these funds. And So the Water Authority and Van Leer got together on a plan to use the Water Authority's eligible funds to provide a redundant source of water to Van Leer. Van Leer's had problems in the past where intakes were affected by flooding. So it had some major disruptions of their ability to provide water. And I think probably all remember bottled water being shipped into Van Leer for its citizens. So that was high on the mayor's list of things that if we could provide some of that redundant capacity, the Water Authority enjoys, get it up to the north and northwestern part of the county. So that's in this. And then Sylvia, I'll give you a very brief story on the Water Authority to explain use of those funds. In 2009, the Water Authority qualified for what was then, if I get my letters right, the ARRAP funding, which was again federally funded. And the Water Authorities have used those funds, qualify for those funds in sewer, 6 locations, subdivisions that really at the time, there's no way they'd ever even think about being able to do that. So that created a real positive for the next several years that they were able to use those funds and generate revenue and provide service to people who otherwise wouldn't have that service. Kind of using that same model for what we're looking at for Sylvia is providing a large portion of these funds, almost half, so that they can address things in their district that they otherwise wouldn't be able to fund. And I'll right here explain. The Water Authority and Sylvia are both self-sustaining entities. They don't receive taxpayer dollars. They're ratepayer funded. So this is a unique situation where you get to participate in federal funding. And then we get into the match. The federal funding comes with a requirement to match funds. That's where the mayor has asked for me to get involved, kind of figure out some of the match situation and then present that to the commission for a funding request. So it's rare to come before commission and asking for funds for utilities because they're essentially, like I said, self-sustaining. So that's real high level. What we've got in front of us is 4.37 million. We're looking at an allocation on that where a total of 2.47 of that is going to Sylvia. That includes a $370,000 county match. The Water Authority would receive 2.27 with no match. That's just the federal funds, and we're not requesting any kind of matching funds. And then a match for Van Leer. So two match requests that mayor's passing out right now, one for Van Leer and one for Sylvia. I've thrown a lot at you real quick, but just trying to make real positive use of these federal funds. And again, for folks that don't work in these terms very often, the match is what the federal or state funding agencies put out is what an entity needs to come up with on its own to qualify for the money. And so in this case, that's what we're here to discuss, just the scope of the funding and the match.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Ruff?
Good question. Has the infrastructure in these areas been upgraded in recent years? I know several years ago, I had, I don't know where it's a privilege to deal with it or not, but we used to deal with pond utility.
Right.
And a lot of their infrastructure out there was like 2-inch water lines,
Correct.
stuff like that. Has that been upgraded?
So
Any of that been
that's what
done?
I'm referring to here. I'd say the answer to that, I'm not the expert on, I'm referring to them as Sylvia. It's Sylvia, Tennessee City Ponds. It's the same one we're talking about. When you get into running those utilities, and again, it being ratepayer funded, what those boards do with those funds, those boards allocate new lines, replacement lines, all that. That's why when you're sitting here looking at a $2.3, $2.4 million shot of money into a utility like that, that's a game changer to do the things you're talking about, to replace lines that might have been in the ground for 50, 60 years. We got into the same thing at the Water Authority. We took over the city of Dickson's water and sewer, in 2002, we did that merger. Some of those sewer lines have been in the ground since the 1920s. And literally there was nothing left in the ground but the shape of a pipe, some of those things. So it's an excellent point. That's what these funds are intended to do, is to help those utilities replace lines and upgrade and plan. A huge part of this is doing assessment and modeling. Water modeling is figuring out what the flows and pressures need to be now and for the future, so that you can plan what size lines and what storage capacity and those things you need to have. So I'd say your question is exactly on point. That's what these funds are for.
Well, I got first a statement and then a question, but so I've been working with a couple of utilities in other counties, and I know we're kind of down to the last minute. This is due, I think at the end of the month, but the other counties that I worked with, they split the money up on a customer base. They took their total county and then they split it amongst the utilities based on customers. But and I'm not opposed to this. I mean, if there's a need in the county, then there's a need, you know, and I think the plan that's going to Van Leer is definitely, you know, needed. I mean, but I guess I never did hear what the plan was. Like we done before with ARP money, we took and we bought all the fire utilities or all the fire departments a fire engine. And so I guess I'm just trying to, I know what we're doing with the Van Leer. We're running. What is STCP doing? Do they have a specific project that they're going to do?
Their specific funding is for the assessment and the modeling, and therefore will lead to what projects can be eligible for this program, of which the mayor will have final say on that. So you got sort of a line item veto available from the mayor as you get into these projects. So they'll identify projects through the assessment. They'll submit those projects for approval, and then they'll be approved on a case-by-case basis. So it's
Dickson,
just that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The Water Authority and Van Leer just have a clear need and have identified that and how to go about doing it.
One of my concerns on the application, which we brought up a month ago, was the lack of clarity on what Sylvia Tennessee City Pond was going to do. We've had a lot of discussion back and forth as late as middle of this afternoon with TDEC, but the application process can go forward. But if they have questionable issues they're going to spend the money on, this body, as well as me, will have final say on that. So when they do their assessment, they'll bring it back to us, to this body. And if we're in agreement, we'll move forward with it. If we're not, we'll ask them to do something else. One of the things that's important in this application is that we're all applying together. If Water Authority applied on their own, they would have to come up with a 35% match. But by the whole county applying together, we can use the most needy, lowest match, which is Van Leer. So the matches by us all applying together are 15% on that from additional funds they need from what the Water Authority is going to do and what we're proposing to do from the county for Sylvia Tennessee City Pond and for Van Leer. That we, as you'll see in here, on that I handed out, it showed a county match for Sylvia Tennessee City Pond at 370, and it showed a match for Van Leer at 102. It shows no match for Water Authority. They will have to come up with their own 15% match. The real goal for me on this, and what we talked about early on, was trying to help portions of this community that would never be able to do this kind of infrastructure improvement on their own. And so that's what the thinking is behind this. Van Leer received direct money of their own of almost $7 short of $600,000. So they got it because they are their own entity, whereas Mr. Ruff pointed out their own taxpayer unit, where STCP and Water Authority are not. So that's what the thinking is behind this. The number that came up was determined by the groups. All three groups were at the table on this. They're the ones that came up with this split. That was not placed upon them by us. Please.
Just a couple more things. So it's my understanding when I was involved in working with these and researching it myself, because there's going to be a lot of work, you know, for us to chase in Middle Tennessee. But so it's my understanding when we submit the application, that if there's one project that's not acceptable, then the whole, I guess where I'm trying to go with this is if we submit something and that's not acceptable, then we lose the whole $4.5 million grant.
We feel like we cleared that hurdle with the state, with Ms. Jones, who's the infrastructure funding specialist. Been a lot of conversations back and forth on that particular topic. And they've actually, we've collectively have emails where she's endorsed the process of what we've gone through and especially the assessment and modeling that Sylvia will be doing. So, yeah, we've tried to address those concerns.
Yeah. And also it's my understanding too, that the federal, I know this is coming through the federal, through the state, but
Correct.
they also have the right to come back and audit these. And so if we're not in compliance, then the county's liable to pay this money back. So I just, I'm sure y'all know all that. I'm not an expert on this by no means, but I'm hearing and researching this. And so I just want to make sure that whatever we submit, we do. Yeah. And I would like that if we get to approve those projects, because I mean, I know there's a need. I know there's a need. We just need to know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a sleep easy endorsement that helped us as well. That was like, okay, well, that makes a lot more sense.
We started getting a lot of clarity over this over the last week, because that was a concern that Dickson County could be on the hook for this. But Ms. Jones, Vina Jones, who works there, and I'll share the emails with you. It'll help you on your other projects that you're working outside the county. It answered all those concerns, because my fear was we get hung with $4.3 million of bad projects. I really don't want to come back and tell you all that. In fact, I wouldn't. I'd go somewhere else.
What they're doing.
Yeah, there's a line that the Water Authority and Van Lear are going to collectively construct on 49 that'll bring water in, so it'll have a redundant source of water that they don't have right now. Yep. No,
For the total. Or is this just the like a whatever to get this started?
No,
I mean,
no, the funding, the Water Authority's portion is that 2.2 and Van Lear's is that 680. And so that's what they're combining to spend on that. If it's going to cost more than that, then those, again, the Board of Commissioners, the Water Authority and the Council of Van Lear have to approve funding for that.
That's what we're appropriating. I mean,
you're appropriating, being asked to appropriate 102,000 towards that.
Yeah.
That's for the Van Lear
That's the
Pod
county
project and $370,000 toward the STC project. The funding is coming from our ARP money, which that will not come out of our regular tax base. That's one of the suggestions about the collaborative projects from the federal government and from the state. So that's money we have set aside in a different pot. So it does not affect the county's fund balance. It does not affect anything to the county tax rate. Sure.
Just clarification. Out of this, I know are we receiving the 4.3 million the county is? And is that money supporting the match, or is the county going to have to take that money out of another fund to match these two? I guess I'm confused on.
I think I'm confused.
Okay. Okay. So it says that the county is going to make the match for STCP and Van Lear.
Right.
Okay. Where is that money coming from, the grant, or is that money that we're appropriating?
No, that's ours from the American Rescue
Okay.
Plan money, not the TDEC money, but that 5.2 million we received, the initial 5.2, it will come out. That's what I'm recommending. It comes out of that. Now, if the body feels different, but I'm recommending it comes out of that because it does not come out of your regular tax rate tax base. Oh, I'm sorry, man. AM and FM. Okay. Exactly. Are there any more questions from Mr. Ruff? Because the request is to move this on to regular session to go about this funding. Commissioner Williams is correct. It is the end of the month. I was hoping, as I told you, in September to have it done, but that was some questions that we had with STCP's application. And so now that we have that clarified, that's what's back before this body tonight. So the floor is open for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Grove, second by Commissioner Buckner. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ruff. Item number 7 is part-time employee pay raises. We've taken a look at that. We're recommending 25 cents an hour for all part-time people. To give some clarification, where Mr. Lund and I were having a battle over how much people make. There are some $9 hour employees, but they had requested not to be raised because they didn't want to interrupt some Social Security benefits. So we will work with those individually, but at minimum, it's $10 an hour, except for our put upon magistrates who apparently made many phone calls to you, and they'll just get 25 cents. I'm not bitter. Open the floor for motion for the 25 cent rate. Commissioner Buckner, motion, Spicer, second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Other business, road dedication for Inverness Estate subdivision. Mr. Darnell.
Mayor. Inverness Estate subdivision is located off of White Bluff Road near Highway 96. It's been a subdivision that's been around since 2005. It's finally reached a point where it's built out, and you'll see in the packet that was handed out a couple of weeks ago. There's a letter from the highway department stating it's built up to standard. You got a letter of dedication from the developer. You also have a copy of the maintenance bond that's required for 1 year. Vote here will move this on, or will be approved into the highway system.
Any question, Mr. Darnell? Open the floor for motion. Motion by Commissioner Petty, second by Commissioner Gray. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Other item under other business, as you all know, we're in the process of making an appointment for the highway superintendent. As the laws we went through, and I'm just going to remind you of the process of where we are on that. That is an appointment for a 4-year term. What I did was I put together a committee of 5 people to do interviews, which I think they did last Thursday night. On that, the interview committee consisted of 2 road builders, Michael Eubank and Kevin Little. We had one person that was generalist, that was Jenny Wagner, the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Had Donnie Bear on there as a member of our management team. And then the group was led by Mr. Richard Neblett. No, that's you. Richard Rodney Carmichael. I got all these RC. Okay. Mr. Rodney Carmichael, who is retired here in the city, lives next to Kroger over there. He was over a 20-year head of the Tennessee County Highway Officials Association. So we had a real good group on that. They met. I understand from them that they had a real good interview session on that. I'm the point now that I've talked to 2 of the 5 of those members. I'm going to finish talking to the other 3, hopefully tomorrow and or Wednesday. At that point in time, I will have a name for you, and we'll put that on the agenda as we plan on Monday, October 17th to make the appointment. But I would like for Mr. Richard Neblett and Mr. Jackie Hodges, y'all stand up. We have 2 fine applicants on this. Appreciate y'all giving them a hand. Any other business? Announcements? Any announcements? Commissioner Cindy Gray has a very important announcement. If you want, make sure you speak in the microphone and turn it on.
You just want everybody to hear that I am now officially a grandmother.
Yay.
Thank you.
We need a name and a weight.
He was born Thursday. He weighed 6 pounds, 12 ounces, Jack Raymond Gray.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
Nothing like a grandchild. Any other announcements from commission? The last announcement is the next work session will be on Monday, November 7th at 7 p.m. in the Beaverdale Booty Reed Jr. County Commission Chamber of the Dickson County Administration Building, 4 Court Square, Charlotte, Tennessee. Have a motion, second adjourn. Thank you.